Kathleen, and I'm the Say What Program Manager here at Texas State University at the Texas School Safety Center. And welcome to this year's virtual summit. Let's take a look to see what you are going to learn today. First, the teen ambassadors are going to show you how the tobacco industry has been evolving the e-cigarette for decades with the sole purpose of trying to addict you and everyone you know to nicotine. Next, we'll take a look at the dangers found inside these products and the serious health concerns these products have on our bodies and our minds. You'll also get to hear from Dr. Devika Rao share about her firsthand experiences treating vaping-related lung injuries among youth. Then, you'll see some future tobacco industry predictions and what they plan to do to market their products in the future. And lastly, you'll see what advocates are doing across the state and the nation and how you can join the fight against big tobacco too. I hope you're ready because here are your teen ambassadors.
Hello everyone, my name is Charlene Moore. This is my third wonderful year being a teen ambassador, and a few cool things about myself is that I'm 17 years old. I'm currently a junior at Jefferson High School, which is Northeast Texas, and when I'm not advocating for tobacco prevention, I love to dance. So I'm super excited to be here with you all virtually today, so I can't wait to get started.
Hello everybody, my name is Kayla and I am a third year teen ambassador. I am 18 years old and currently I am a senior at Clint Early College Academy in El Paso, Texas. I will be graduating later this year in June, super excited for that, but until then I am still working on doing projects with my youth group EPACT at our school and doing a lot of community engagement. And with all that being said, we are so excited to have you all here for the virtual summit today.
Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Micah and I'm a second year teen ambassador from Dallas, Texas. I am so excited to do this summit with you guys today and I think we are going to have a great time. But before we go ahead and jump into everything, let me just tell you a couple things about myself. So I play lacrosse. That's something that I really enjoy. It is so much fun. If you guys don't know what lacrosse is, give it a Google. It is, I think, the best sport, but it might be a little bit biased. But that's something that I really enjoy. And then a random fun fact about me is that I have a pet parrot named Mango con Chile, and she is absolutely adorable. She wreaks havoc everywhere she goes, but she is so much fun. So those are just a couple of random things about me, but I'm so excited, and I know we're going to have a great time together today, and I can't wait.
Hello everyone, my name is Ella Troop. I am a third year teen ambassador and a junior at Sinton High School in Sinton, Texas, which is just a little bit away from Corpus Christi. And a little fun fact about me, I was actually in on the very first ever virtual summit that we had back in 2020, and I'm super excited to be back here for a third year in a row. So let's go ahead and get this started.
And now we're just going to keep the introductions rolling a little bit longer. So to start off, I want to introduce you all to the Texas State School Safety Center. And we give a huge shout out to the staff at the Texas State School Safety Center for being the ones hosting this summit and giving us the opportunity to bring all of this awesome information to you all through Say What. And that brings me to the question, what is Say What? Who is Say What? And what do we do? So Say What is a youth-led organization that is focused on creating the first tobacco-free, nicotine-free, and vape-free generation here in Texas. And Say What is made up of so many different people. Youth like you and me, the teen ambassadors, the consultants, and lots of members in our youth groups throughout the state. I myself have a youth group at my school, and we do a lot of really awesome things within our community. But just in case you didn't catch what exactly Say What stands for, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys. So Say What stands for Students, Adults, and Youth Working Hard Against Tobacco. And just like it says in the name, that's exactly what we are doing. We are working hard against tobacco to be the first tobacco-free generation. And we have been working towards this goal since 2011 when Say What was established. And now with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce some of my fellow teen ambassadors and explain what the TA program is.
So now that you've learned about Say What, we can go ahead and address the elephant in the room and talk about who we are and why we are presenting to you today. So we are teen ambassadors for the Say What movement. We are high school students from all across Texas, and we were selected to represent the youth of the state in regards to tobacco prevention. We are trained in terms of knowledge and presentation skills, and we then utilize these skills by doing different events similar to this one in person all across the state as well as virtually to spread tobacco prevention awareness. Being a teen ambassador has given me the opportunity to use my voice with the platform that Say What has given me to stand up for something that I am passionate about. If you're interested in becoming a teen ambassador, you can find an application on the Say What website at txsaywhat.com. So, if you've been keeping up with us on social media, you may have an idea on what our theme is for this year. This year's theme will hopefully give you all some insight into the route that you would like to take to pursue your advocate journey in tobacco prevention. So yes, this year's theme is KEY. KEY stands for Knowledge Empowers You. And what does a key do? It opens doors. The knowledge that you are going to be provided with today will empower you to open many different doors within your journey as an advocate. In this next video, you will hear about our keys as teen ambassadors.
My key is empowering youth to use their voice.
My key is connecting with others.
My key is ensuring that youth are included in making decisions about their health.
My key is being a support system for others.
My key is my passion for protecting today's youth.
My key is changing the tobacco social norm.
My key is keeping us and our environment clean and healthy.
My key is to help build healthy lifestyles.
My key is advocating on the dangers of tobacco use.
We hope after hearing from the teen ambassadors that you all will have the opportunity to find your key. Even after this summit ends, we would like to keep up with you all and see how you all grow as advocates. So we would love it if you all would follow us on social media. We also share a lot of really cool resources and information, so that's something that you can look for when we post. We have almost all social media platforms, and you can find us on all of these at TXSayWhat. If you haven't gotten to already, screenshot this screen so you can follow us later after the summit ends. Now, with all of that being said and all of the housekeeping being put out the way, we are so excited to get started with this virtual summit.
Indeed, camels are so mild that in a recent test of hundreds of people who smoked only camels for 30 days, noted throat specialists making weekly examinations reported not one single case of throat irritation due to smoking camels.
Camel. Yes, according to this survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Try Camels yourself.
Cigarette smoking started about 1900. And the argument was cigarette smoking does cause cancer because people who smoke don't have cancer. Well, it takes 30 to 50 years to develop cancer. So 1950, we started to see, oh my gosh, people who are smoking have cancer. Well, now you have alternative nicotine delivery products. They've argued that there's a health benefit. There's absolutely no data to support that at all. The playbook hasn't changed for the tobacco industry. Marketing to African American groups, marketing to Latino groups. We're focusing efforts on young people. And you couldn't find an actor or actress who wasn't having a cigarette in their hand. The tobacco industry has morphed into now let's sell our addictive product in a different way. Let's make it technical for kids. We're going to make it look appealing for kids. We're going to have different colors and flavors. Same thing that they did with tobacco and a cigarette in a tobacco package, but now it's more appealing for the young person who's technology savvy.
Jewel also tried to reach young people through faith-based organizations. Ms. Gould, was Juul aware that Big Tobacco had funded similar life skills programs beginning in the late 1990s? The contract shows that Juul paid the Richmond PAL $89,000. In exchange for that payment, Juul got to provide its curriculum controlling the information presented to a group of potential customers, preteens and teens already using e-cigarettes. That's another page out of Big Tobacco's playbook.
My concern is that it's a different package, it's a different look, it's the same product.
Alright, so we just watched a really great video, and that is going to go ahead and get us started on our first topic, and that is the evolution of e-cigarettes. So, as you can see on this screen, we have 4 different generations of e-cigarettes displayed. However, the idea of e-cigarettes has actually been around since 1930. The first markup of an e-cigarette was actually created in 1965, and this means that the idea for e-cigarettes has been around for well over 60 years. What we consider the first generation is known as the cig-alike. So as you can see, these look very similar to traditional cigarette products, however, they deliver the nicotine electronically. And then moving on to the second generation, these are known as hookah pens. So these really changed the game because they had refillable cartridges and they also contained a higher concentration of nicotine than the cig-alikes did. And mods, which are the third generation, are very similar to hookah pens. However, the cartridges are much larger, meaning the user could go for longer without refilling them. And these are really significant because the ability to inhale aerosol at a faster rate really popularized the idea of vape tricks and vape rings, things like that helped to overall popularize the products. So videos of these vape tricks could be posted to social media, shared with friends, or even anybody could see this out in public, and that enhanced the appeal, unfortunately, of this product. And what the generation is currently is the fourth generation. So we see things here like the Juul, and these are very sleek, oftentimes colorful products that were really designed to appeal directly to the youth. These products also popularized the idea of flavors, which helped to popularize, again, the product as a whole. So these products are especially dangerous because they contain even higher amounts of nicotine than any generation has before. And the most significant and biggest game changer of the industry in this generation is, of course, the Juul.
All right, guys, so I want you to think about the e-cigarettes that we saw on the last slide. They were all really clunky and awkward and really sort of chunky. They were mod-based. They were really big. But now I want you to take a look at the e-cigarette here on the slide. So this e-cigarette is a Juul. Look at how sleek and modern it looks. This is what made it really popular amongst youth. Just take a look at some of these quotes here from about the time the Juul was released. So you can really see how popular Juul was in the market at the time. So in 2016, when Juuls first came out, they were making around 50 million a month. But then in 2019, Juul peaked at making 400 million a month. So this is really when e-cigarettes started to become really popular amongst youth. And it's really because of Juul that they are as popular as they are today. It's really because of this groundbreaking, modern, sleek design that e-cigarettes are the #1 fastest growing tobacco product in the market today. So Juul was really popular amongst youth for quite a while, but then the FDA thankfully passed legislation that outlawed flavors in these pod-based e-cigarettes. Because most youth were vaping for flavors, they left Juul. They stopped vaping Juul products because that wasn't what they wanted anymore. And these youth instead turned to disposable e-cigarettes. Because big tobacco is always tricky, they found a loophole that allowed them to still manufacture disposable e-cigarettes with flavors. So take a look here on this slide. These kinds of e-cigarettes are what's popular amongst youth who vape right now. So these sort of replace Juuls, and this is the Juul of today. So as you guys can see, e-cigarettes continue to change and evolve, and as they've evolved, their nicotine content has also changed. So unfortunately, nicotine content is not regulated in tobacco products in the US. So tobacco concentration just continues to rise. For example, take a look at this slide. One vape pod can contain 3 to 7% nicotine, which equals up to 2 packs of cigarettes. So the same nicotine as 2 packs of cigarettes in that tiny little vape pod. Absolutely insane. All right, guys, I've talked a lot about how popular these products are, but I just wanted to let you know that they aren't really that popular. While it may feel like the whole world is vaping around us, that's just not true. Take a look at the numbers on the slide. 97% of middle school students don't vape, and 89% of high school students don't vape. So the majority of teenagers out there actually aren't vaping.
And like Micah just said, so many youth don't vape, and that is why we continue to educate about the dangers inside tobacco products. So in this section, we're going to be talking about nicotine salts, flavors, and other really yucky chemicals and their impacts on the brain, and how the industry really doesn't care about us youth at all because they continue to use health issues and concerns in their marketing, despite not being concerned at all. So in this next little graphic, we can see all of the different parts of the body that nicotine affects, like the lungs, the liver, the heart, the brain. It also suppresses the immune system and can cause a bunch of other illnesses. And so let's go ahead and talk about nicotine salts, because nicotine salts are what really do impact our body, like we just saw on that last slide. So the main difference between later versions of e-cigarettes and earlier generations of e-cigarettes is the type of nicotine that they use. Pod-based e-cigarettes and disposables use nicotine salts. Nicotine salts are basically pure nicotine mixed with acid to neutralize nicotine's bitter taste. This allows for the device to deliver more nicotine at a higher concentration in a quicker time. Free-base nicotine, which is found in cigarettes, enters the bloodstream through the user's mouth and throat. But because nicotine salts are easier to smoke, the nicotine has a more direct passage to the lungs, and this leads to a higher nicotine blood content in a shorter amount of time. And this is what leads to so many people becoming addicted. So like we can see on the screen, addiction is the inability to stop consuming a substance or doing a thing or activity. Addiction is a silent disease that has gone hand in hand with the epidemic of vaping. Addiction is so hard to break free of. Just kind of think of it like a really bad habit, like biting your nails or scrolling through TikTok or even binge watching on Netflix, which we've all been guilty of, but addiction to nicotine and tobacco products is so much worse and way more dangerous. And we as youth are at more risk of becoming addicted to harmful products because our brains are still growing and developing, and that is what big tobacco takes advantage of to try to make us part of the 50 million Americans that are addicted to tobacco products. But there are many things that we can do to prevent this, which is keeping educated on the effects of tobacco on our body. So the effects of nicotine salts on the brain, like we see on this slide right here, include difficulty concentrating, irritability, and the fact that nicotine salts prime the youth brain for addictions to other drugs like cocaine and heroin. And as some of us may have heard before, it is easier for young people to learn things compared to older people, like languages or math or science or things like that. And addiction is a form of learning, and since young people learn faster than older people, an addiction can develop faster for younger people. Addiction also affects adolescents and teens more because the brain is not fully developed until the age of 25. Along with changing our brains physically and chemically, nicotine also causes several harmful side effects such as anxiety, headaches, and mood swings. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Charlene to focus a little bit more on those mood swings.
After hearing about all of these negative health effects, it could be really hard to understand why people may turn to these products. Well, it turns out that big tobacco companies market their products as if they would be a solution to feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression. These feelings are very common among individuals our age, so this is a big misconception that would explain why youth our age resort to these products, which brings us to talk about the next statistic. It states that current e-cigarette users are 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with depression. The worst part about this is that it means that these nicotine products actually worsen these feelings. So let's see how a user's mental health may be affected when they successfully quit vaping. It states that 90% of youth who quit vaping have reported feelings of being less stressed, anxious, and depressed. Then 78% of the youth believe that their self-image, so the way that they view themselves, would improve if they quit vaping. So all of this information is super important because all of these feelings are very relevant in today's society. So let's think of some alternatives that we can turn to resolve these feelings of stress and anxiety besides resorting to vaping. I personally take care of my stress through physical activity. Like I mentioned earlier, I love to dance, I love to stretch and work out. But if you don't have something that you can rely on to relieve stress, we actually have a quick stress check. And something that I really love about this stress check is that you can do it anywhere. So how it works is you're going to inhale through your nose for 5 seconds. You're going to hold that breath for another 5 seconds. And then you're going to exhale for 10 seconds through your mouth. So since we're here, let's go ahead and try it. You're going to inhale through your nose for 5. So inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then exhale through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's just a stress check that I love to do when I'm feeling anxious. It just kind of relieves stress very quickly, and it's just, you can do it anywhere. So if you're ever feeling anxious, don't ever be afraid to just go ahead and try that stress check. So now that we're feeling all relieved and relaxed, I think it is a perfect time to hand it off to Micah, and she's going to talk about some really important and interesting things about how these products affect our health.
Alright guys, that video did a great job of demonstrating what happens to a user who uses nicotine and how it breaks down their immune system. So this is particularly concerning right now because of the public health crisis that is COVID-19. We all know what COVID-19 is. It's been around for like 2 years now, which is crazy. But it's really concerning what's coming out about the correlation between COVID-19 and vaping or smoking. For example, take a look at the slide. People who vape are 5 times more likely to contract COVID-19, and people who vape and smoke are 7 times more likely to contract COVID-19. So that is so concerning, guys. It is absolutely insane how much vaping or smoking lowers a user's defenses and makes them so susceptible to catching this dangerous virus. And something that makes this almost worse is how big tobacco behaved during the pandemic, during 2020. So I don't know about you guys, but in 2020, my family kind of had a hard time finding toilet paper. And Big Tobacco knew that many of us had a hard time finding things like toilet paper. Just take a look at these ads down here, especially right now, this ad up here in the upper right-hand corner. You can see that they're advertising a free roll of toilet paper if you buy a dangerous tobacco product from their store. So they're using everyone's basic needs to prey upon them and try to ensnare them in addiction to their deadly products.
So, we've talked about how e-cigarettes have evolved throughout the years, and we've talked about how they can impact your mental health. But now we're going to spend a little bit of time discussing how these products can impact your physical health. So, we know that long-term e-cigarette use can cause damage to the lungs and increase risk of several chronic lung diseases, such as asthma or even chronic bronchitis. And there's an actual example of this on the screen. These are photos that went around social media a couple years ago from an actual Juul user who has now thankfully quit, but unfortunately has caused some pretty severe damage to their lungs. So as you can see, the black dots are places where the lungs have actually been damaged. And unfortunately, this isn't an uncommon scenario. Here to tell us a little bit more about how e-cigarette use can impact your physical health is Dr. Devika Rao, a pediatric pulmonologist in Dallas.
There was definitely a sense of alarm that these kids were coming in so sick and that there was a little bit of fear of the unknown as to what this actually was.
There's been a huge surge of high schoolers using e-cigarettes or vaping.
The FDA said today that vaping by teenagers has reached epidemic levels.
In the summer and fall of 2019, at one point we were admitting teens with vaping lung injuries several times a week. And that was like at the peak. We saw kids who had mild symptoms on one end of the spectrum and really severe symptoms on the other end of the spectrum, and then everything in between. So we saw teens who couldn't breathe on their own and they needed ventilators to help them breathe, having complications like air leaks in their lung, requiring even heart-lung bypass at the very worst. We saw many teens who initially came to us with coughing, shortness of breath with activity, vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, abdominal pain. And we saw that they had high levels of inflammation in their bodies. We saw abnormal findings of their lungs when we did CT scans and chest x-rays. Normally in medicine, we rely on what we call evidence-based medicine, based on data, based on studies. We didn't have any of that. And so because this was completely new, it was really tough to be able to face these patients, these young people and their parents, and tell them that we didn't know exactly how things were going to turn out. We found that kids were vaping a lot. They had been vaping anywhere ranging from a few months to a few years. And they were vaping all sorts of different products, not just marijuana, but nicotine, disposables, Juul, so many different kinds of products. We have years worth of research that shows that what you're inhaling from a vaping device is not safe. The substances or toxins in the aerosol that's generated can cause lung injury. And what does that look like? It can look like a condition where you may have difficulty clearing your own mucus. The lungs have a natural ability to clear mucus. They have these tiny microscopic hair cells that beat and bring up mucus, and you swallow it and you don't even know that your lungs are protecting you from the outside world. If you look at the surface area of the lungs, it is the same as half a tennis court size. is really, really big. And naturally, it needs a way to fight off infections because of all the things in the air. I think we understand that very well now, being in a pandemic, and this is why we have to wear masks. Along with the possibility of an increased risk of infection, there's also an association with more inflammation. We have a lot of medical evidence to suggest that what you're inhaling from vapes directly is toxic to the cells of the lung and can cause inflammation, can cause even cell death in the lungs. These processes are not good for your breathing. They can lead to real symptoms. What concerns me is that, number one, that we're addicting a whole new generation of young people to nicotine. The addiction is happening at the most vulnerable time in adolescence, in the teenage years. That really sets up teenagers and young people for a lifelong issue. The second most important thing is that we don't know the long-term outcomes, the long-term repercussions of using e-cigarettes starting at an early age. And so those are the two most concerning things for me as we battle this epidemic of vaping.
I hope everybody enjoyed that video from Dr. Devika Rao. I know I personally found it very informative, and we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about one of the things that she discussed, and that is asthma. So the chemicals found inside e-cigarettes and vapes can increase your risk of developing a chronic lung disease like asthma. But if you have asthma, it can also make that asthma worse. So the chemicals found inside of these products can irritate the airways and the lungs, increasing your risk of having an asthma attack or making the asthma attack worse. What I find very interesting is that different flavors can have different chemicals added into them that can make these impacts stronger. So for buttery flavored e-cigarettes, they have a chemical known as diacetyl, and it is different for every flavor. So overall, these chemicals added into the already harmful chemicals that are in e-cigarettes and vapes can cause damage to the cells in your airways and in your lungs, which can overall worsen your asthma or even cause you to develop a chronic lung condition like asthma. However, this isn't just for the user itself. What can also be very damaging is secondhand aerosol from these products, which again is not just water vapor. It still contains these harmful chemicals, and it can trigger an asthma attack in maybe your loved one that's in the house with you, your close friend, or even just a person walking down the street. So this aerosol can be unsuspecting, and you may not even know that the person has asthma, but because the user is vaping, they can trigger an asthma attack in somebody else. So these chemicals in the product and in the aerosol are overall very harmful.
So we briefly mentioned a few chemicals found in these products, but let's actually take a second to hit on a few major chemicals found in these e-cigarettes. First, we have vegetable glycerin, and I know what we may be thinking, that Charlene is just talking nonsense, and that vegetable glycerin is far from dangerous because, we eat it all the time. We are not completely wrong. Vegetable glycerin is considered to be safe for eating, but not inhaling. Once vegetable glycerin is heated up, it alters the substance, making it dangerous to our lungs. Our stomachs may be able to handle it, but our lungs cannot. Over a long period of time, vegetable glycerin may lead to lung inflammation. Next, we have propylene glycol. It is a clear, odorless liquid that's used as a base in e-liquids. But you know what else it's used in? Antifreeze, hydraulic fluid, and at one point, acrylic paints. When propylene glycol is heated, it turns into a known carcinogen, which is a cancer-causing agent. Finally, we have diethylene glycol. It is also a clear, odorless liquid, and it's actually quite similar to propylene glycol. It's found in antifreeze as well as brake fluid, and guess what? It's also used as a base in e-liquids. So not only do these e-cigarettes contain harmful chemicals, they also have toxic metals like lead and nickel. And I'm pretty sure it's safe to assume that these metals don't belong in our bodies. I mean, where can nickel be found? In coins. So it's not surprising to hear that these metals can cause heart problems, lung damage, learning disabilities, etc., etc. In all honesty, it's just extremely sad to see how big tobacco companies are detrimentally impacting people's health with these products. It almost seems as if they have absolutely no boundaries. And it may even lead one to wonder, what will they do next? I actually have some predictions and ideas that big tobacco companies may be working on. We can actually start with Philip Morris. Philip Morris was included in the 2022 Bloomberg Gender Equality Index for their significant progress towards advancing gender equality. This is because of the so-called support they showed towards the concept of companies who have women in more management roles are more likely to be successful. But I don't know. Let's go ahead and see how Philip Morris's actions defy their words. So, Philip Morris is over the Virginia Slims brand. And here you can see a few advertisements that they have promoted. Virginia Slims market their cigarettes by telling women that their products make them beautiful, skinny, powerful, and just overall superior. And honestly, this is more than a lie because it does the complete opposite. I mean, using these products can actually lead one to age quicker than usual. So after seeing this, and then looking at the gender equality index that they were included in, absolutely disgust me. And to top it all off, statistics show that women are suffering from tobacco-related diseases at a higher rate than men. I also want to mention that during this time period of these specific advertisements was also during the time while women were actively fighting for equal rights. So it's ironic to me how Philip Morris pulls something like this, making a complete joke out of the fight. But guess what? Philip Morris isn't the only tobacco company that has done things like this.
So they are going to try and promote this good guy's image in many different ways. And there's another example here on the screen. So in 2015, British American Tobacco sent out this tweet showing that they are packing meals to help solve the hunger crisis. However, we know that they aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart because they care about the hunger crisis. Really, we know that they are simply doing this as a PR stunt to try and make themselves appear like a good-hearted company, so you will be more inclined to buy from them specifically. We also know that they are going to spend tons of money trying to promote a different image for themselves. So on one hand, Altria says we're moving beyond smoking. However, we know that they sold over 93 billion cigarettes in 2021. So we know from looking at the numbers that this is certainly not true. They only care about one thing and one thing only, and that is making money and selling cigarettes. And they will do whatever it takes to make sure that they achieve this goal. And another way they're going to try and achieve this is through government partnerships. Since 1995, Big Tobacco has contributed over $32 million in political contributions across lots of different levels of government, so local, state, federal, and across party lines. So it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, Independent, they're going to give money to whoever they think will help them achieve their political goals. Also, during COVID-19, we know that there was shortages on lots of things essential to public health, such as personal protective equipment, ventilators, and other medical supplies like that. So, Big Tobacco saw this shortage in desperation, and they decided that it was the perfect time for them to pounce. They gave lots of different essential equipment to different governments all around the world. And we know that they are doing this for one reason and one reason only again. And that is they are hoping to delay or decrease the tobacco tax increases so that they can essentially sell more products.
So, what is being done to stop these companies from continuing to target people with their deadly products? Well, the FDA is on our side in this issue. In 2021, the FDA released news that they would be banning menthol cigarettes and flavored cigars within the next year. Lawsuits may postpone this original goal though, but this move is really important because of the impact that menthol has on the Black and African American community. And on this next slide, we're going to see a little bit more about the steps that the FDA has taken. So like this tweet says, the FDA denies marketing applications for about 55,000 flavored e-cigarette products for failing to provide evidence that they appropriately protect public health. So the industry claims to be healthy, but the FDA responded by saying, no way, you're not healthy, and there's no way that you can advertise your products as health products, even though Big Tobacco tries to claim that they are, quote unquote, appropriate for the protection of public health. But we know better, and in the 2021 legislative session, the Texas legislative session had several bills relating to taxing e-cigarettes, prohibiting all flavored tobacco products, and prohibiting indoor smoking, which are all really, really awesome goals that we're striving towards. Unfortunately, none of these received the support that they needed to pass, but what did pass was a law requiring any e-cigarette retailer to be permitted by the state and doubles the penalties for selling tobacco to anybody under the age of 21. And on the screen, you all can see an example of the permit that those stores must have. And this is a big step because previously the state did not track retailers that only sold e-cigarettes. And the parameters for cracking down on retailers who repeatedly sold to underage individuals was also not tracked. So overall, this was such a win.
Okay guys, we've talked about a lot of different things today, and so you might be wondering, what am I supposed to do with all this information? Well, let me tell you what you can do next. You can help us and hundreds of other Texas youth create the first nicotine and tobacco-free society. You can do this by being an advocate. Advocacy is basically an activity by a person or group of people that aims to influence decisions. Advocacy efforts can impact politics, our economy, and even our society. By being here, you have taken the first step to being an advocate, but there's even more that you can do. In fact, we've put together a webpage full of fun activities you can do by yourself or with your friends now and during the summer to help create our nicotine-free society. The first activity you can do is very easy. You can literally do it from anywhere, and it takes less than 5 minutes. You can tell the FDA to eliminate flavored tobacco products, including flavored e-cigarettes, menthol cigarettes, and flavored cigars by signing the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids Flavor Ban petition. The second activity you can do is to tweet the White House to urge our president to take action and recognize vaping nicotine as a mental health issue and bring attention to the harmful impact vaping nicotine can have on our health.
Third, you can create a public service announcement to help share the information that you learned here today. Not only are public service announcements a great way to increase information and get your message out there, they are also really good because they allow you to show your creative side.
Don't let e-cigarettes wash away your life.
Then you can host a tobacco litter cleanup in your community. Gather your peers, your classmates, whoever you can find, and help collect all sorts of tobacco litter, whether it be cigarette butts or vape cartridges. Then you can tell Say What about your project, and we will send you community service hours for completing this great task. There truly are so many ways that you can advocate.
All right, everyone, that is the conclusion of this virtual summit. We hope that everyone who joined us today really enjoyed the presentation and learned something. If you haven't gotten to do so already, please be sure to follow us on social media at TXSayWhat, where we post resources for Say What members, different events regarding Say What, and just breaking news in regards to tobacco prevention. So yes, we would really just like to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to join us for this virtual summit. Goodbye, everyone. Hope to see you soon.